G'day. In this video, we're going to display some images in our application using labels. Let's get into it. So here you can see I've got our standard window. If we run it, it looks like this. That's the way we always been starting with these videos. We've got a class, we run the class down the bottom, and when the class runs, when it's created, this function runs and all these lines of code run. So we change some options for the window, we create a style, and in that style, we set all our frames to have a gray background. And then we create a container frame. And it's a TTK widget. So it's a themed TK widget again, same as last video. And then we just pack it into our window so that it displays. And that's what gives us that dark gray window there. That's the frame, the dark gray bit. Okay, so let's add a label. So we're going to try and display this picture here, this dog picture. So let's create a label called self.dog. That'll do. And it's a TTK label, so ttk.label. And it's going to be stored, or we're going to put it in the container frame. So self.container frame is the first thing we need to tell it. That's the location where it's going to be stored inside, the parent of our label. And we'll just give it some text to start off with. So we'll just call it dog. And then we've created the label, but now we have to display it. So we'll do the self.dog.pack. We'll just use pack, but I'll also tell it to stick it on the left-hand side. So it'll be on the left-hand side of our window. Let's see if it's there. There it is, right there. We've got our label on the left-hand side of the window. Awesome. Now, how do we get an image into a label? Or how do we use a label with an image? So if you hover over the label object, the TTK label object, you'll see that in the standard options, it lists an image as one of the options. So we can actually give it an image and it will display it. But it's not just a string. We can't just tell it the location of the image. So we can't go image equals dog.png. That won't work. Just using a string is not good enough. What we actually have to do is we actually have to give it an image object. And TK has a special image object, and if you create one of those, then you can give it to a label, and the label will display the image. So we'll do that. We'll go self.pick equals tk.photoimage. Photo image is going to create our image object for us. And we have to give it the file argument. So we go file equals, and then we can put our string in. But it's not just going to be dog. It's not just going to be that. That won't be enough because that's not going to work in VS Code. It might work in your code depending upon how you've got all your folders and files set up, but for me it's not going to work. In VS Code, I'm starting in this folder, the Snappy TK folder. That's my folder where the script is actually starting from. So I have to follow the folder tree down, find a picture that I want, and that's going to be the path that I have to write in here. So for me, from Snappy TK, I'm going in episode 7, and that's the first folder, and then I'm going in pics, and then there's my picture. So I have to type that out as my file path. So I go episode _7 / pics / dog. And then we can go back and set this image attribute or image argument for the label to self.pick, the one we just created in the line above. So we're using that variable, self.pick, as our image here. Let's see if it displays the photo or the dog. Oh, it does too. There it is. And it's on the left. And you'll notice our text has disappeared. By default, labels either show the text or if there's an image, they'll show the image. But you can change that setting. So that's the default setting. But the one you want to change is called compound. That's the actual setting. And by default, it shows the text, or if there is an image, it shows that. So let's change it to something different. Let's change it to top. Whoops, got to put it in quotes though. Top. And see where the text displays this time. Can't see it yet. Oh, there it is. Top has put the image on top of the label. There's the label down there, dog. So I guess if we put bottom in here, we should have the text on top. And there it is. So what that compound does is you're telling it where to display the image. You say bottom and the image displays underneath the text. You say left and the image will display on the right hand side. So let's try that. If we put left, there's our image, and the text is on the right hand side. I'm not sure if that's what I said, but that's what I meant. Okay, so you can use compound to move the label around, and there's even an option for putting it in the center again. It's a bit like the anchor command. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but somewhere in there, there should be the text. It's probably being hidden under that bit of black there. But you'll notice our picture's pretty big, and we might not want a picture that big, but let's actually just add another picture, and then we'll see how we can resize it. So what we'll do is I've got some other pictures here. I think I'll do the fish next. No, maybe I'll do the bird. Let's do the bird next. So I'll go self.pic equals, because I'm going to have to create the pic anyway, so I may as well create that first. Photo image, file equals, and then I might even do the old quick copy paste, and we'll just change the last bit from dog to bird. Yep, and we might even copy and paste this bit as well. Whoops. We might copy and paste these lines just to save us a little bit of typing. And we'll change that to, well, we can do this too. We can, no, we'll just, there's only a little bit. We'll just change it to bird. If we had more things to change, we could do it in a better way. But for the moment, we've only got 3 of them, so we'll just do that. Now, what's that done? We've got that. We'll put the image on the bottom of the text. And we'll pack it on the left again. Let's see if that shows. Let's see if we can see our bird. Oh, we can. What happened to our dog? Where'd our dog go? Ah, that's because we've used the same name for the image variable, the one that's storing our image. So it doesn't work anymore. So we better make this a new one. Then we should have 2. Let's see if that works. And we better make the bird one also talk to the new image. So that label, the bird label, we had to change that too. Let's see if that fixes it. Now we've got a dog and we've got a bird. Perfect. And the text is over here. Let's make our dog text appear like that. We've got a dog, we've got a bird. Awesome. Now let's change the size of this bird pic. It's still a bit big. Let's make it a bit smaller. So how do we change sizes? Well, by default, this photo image does have a kind of a way of changing the size of an image. It's not a great way of doing it, and we better look at a better one after this. But for the moment, we'll just try this. So we can recreate our image because we're going to change its size, and when we do, we have to save it again in the variable. So we'll go self.pic2 dot, because the photo image has this method called subsample. Then subsample, if you hover over it, it returns a new photo image. So in other words, this is going to give us back a new photo image. That's why we have to store it in the variable again. And it does that by using only every so many pixels, depending upon what numbers you tell it. So if we wanted to roughly half the size of the image, we could put something like 2,2. That'll use every second pixel. And if we do that, it should make the bird image smaller. Let's see if it does. There's our, and now the bird image is a little bit smaller. Okay, let's shrink it down a bit more. Let's really make it noticeable. Let's go 4 and 4. So in other words, every 4th pixel. And there we go. Our image is getting smaller. And you might notice though that what's happening is it's starting to lose a bit of sharpness, or it's getting sharper even maybe. The edges are getting jagged, the colors are getting a bit different. The subsample method loses pixels. So it's not a great way of reducing the image, and there probably are better ways we can do it. So let's have a look at a better way of doing it. But I think we'll use a different picture. Let's use a fish. So let's do a quick copy and paste again. And let's change the few variables. So we'll say pic3, and we'll change this one to fish. Whoops, not fish, but fish. And whoops, fish. And we better change this one to pic3 and over here to fish. And we got to change our picture to fish too. There we go. We've changed all our birds to fishes. And let's just have a quick look at that, see if it displays. It did, but we haven't changed one of the options. So which one did we change? Oh, what have we not done? We haven't changed one of them. Fish, fish, fish. Thought we changed them all. Am I missing one? I found it. It's this one over here. Pick 2. We're still using that picture from up there. So we have to change it to pick 3. There we go. Let's see now. There we go. We've got a fish. And that one's been resized. So let's see it at full size. So let's just comment out that line. And what's the full size picture look like? Okay, there's the full size fish. All right. So if we want to resize our pictures, but in a slightly more functional manner, and also I should mention too that this photo image only works for a couple of different types of files. Generally, you're only going to be able to use a PNG file or a GIF or GIF file, GIF file. They're probably the only two that are going to work. If you try and use a JPEG or a JPG file, it's not going to work. So this new method of resizing will also make those ones work as well. So it's kind of useful. So let's do the first thing we have to do. And the first thing we have to do is we have to run or add this line of code at the top of our file. But that may not work for you yet because we actually have to install a new library or a new package into our virtual environment. That one we created way back here, our virtual environment. So we're going to use this module PIL, which stands for the Python Imaging Library. And in order to use it, we have to install it. So long as I've got my virtual environment displaying here at the front of my line down in my terminal, I can install the package quickly. So I can go pip, this is on Windows, install Pillow. That's the name of the package that will give us the Python imaging library. And if you're on Mac, then you would just type the same thing, but you type pip3 install Pillow. Okay? So you do that, and I've already got it, but it'll tell me I've already got it. So it says my requirement is already satisfied, but if you don't have it, it'll install it for you. Once you've got it installed, you can then run this line of code and it'll work. If you don't do this install bit, you can put this line of code in, but nothing will happen. It'll tell you that it can't find the package. Okay, so we're going to do from PIL, or Python Imaging Library, import two things. The image and then a comma, and the other thing we're going to import is image TK. So we're going to import those two things. And now we can use them. Once we've got this line of code at the top and we've installed our library, now we can use them. So how do we use them to change this picture? Well, it's not too much code, but it is a little bit more. So what do we have to do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just modify this line of code here. We're not going to use tk.photoimage. We're going to use this one that we just imported from the Python imaging library. We're going to start off just by using the image object, and we're going to do open, image.open. And we can even leave the file there, and that'll still run. But if we run it now, just after that one change, it won't work. It'll give us an error, I think. Let's see. We get an error. And it doesn't actually even need this file bit, I think. I think we can take that out. Let's see if that fixes that error. There we go. But we get this funny error. It says image specification must contain an odd number of elements. What that's basically saying is that the label where we're using our image object doesn't understand just this one by itself, image.open. So that's okay, because we actually want to resize this image first. So once we've got it open and stored in here, in our variable, we can resize it. So now let's actually resize it. It's a bit like this line, but slightly different. We just do self.pick3 equals self.pick3 again. So like we did before, but this time instead of the subsample method, we're now using a PIL, a Python imaging library object. So it's not a TK object anymore. It's a totally different thing. And this one has a whole bunch more things that you can do with it because it's much more complex than just the TK object, the photo image object. And we're going to use this method, the one that says resize. So it's self.pick3.resize, and then all we have to do is give it the height and width as a tuple, or just in brackets. So if we put brackets and we give it a height and width, they're just pixels. So let's say we want it to be 50 pixels by 50 pixels. And that's going to resize it. Now that's awesome, but that's still not going to work. It is actually going to resize the picture, but our label still won't understand it. So in order to turn it into an object here that our label can understand, we're going to wrap this line in a little bit more code. So at the front of this line here, or the front of this section of the line, we're going to type image tk dot photo image brackets and then put another bracket on the end. So what we're doing now is, you'll notice up here that we use the TK photo image. Well, the Python imaging library has a similar kind of one. It has a photo image, but it's from the image TK module. And that is going to turn our picture that's been resized into an object that we can use in our label down here. So now we're going to have an object we can use. So we're going to open it as a picture, resize it, and then turn it into a TK photo image. Run it, it runs, and we got a nice little fish. That's not too bad. That's all good, but you'll notice the scale, it's not in, the height and width is wrong. So we need to resize it in a way that keeps the relative sizes. So let's do that with our final picture. We've got a cat picture left, and that's a good one to resize because if you look, it's wider than it is higher. So that'll be a good one where we keep the relative sizes of the width and the height together. So let's do one final copy and paste. So we'll do that here. We're going to have to change a few things. We'll change it to cat, and we'll change it to pick 4. And that one will be pick 4. And we'll change this one to cat and cat. And this is going to be pick 4. And the last bit I think is this one, cat. Let's see. If we run that, yep. Let's see what that looks like. What did we get wrong? Oh no, we've done something wrong. We've got to change that one too. There we go. And let's have a look at it. And we've got our cat, but you can see that 50 by 50, it's actually a 50 pixel by 50 pixel picture, and it's all squashed up now. It's not looking good. So we want to stop doing that. We want to make it look a bit better than that. So images from the Python imaging library have this resize method, but they have another one, and it's called thumbnail. And you still give it the same thing. You still give it 2 numbers. But this time it doesn't actually try to make a square image for us. This time what it does is it fits the image into roughly that size, and it keeps the proportions. But unlike the other one that we used, it doesn't actually return an image. It just modifies the one that it currently has, I think. So this might cause us, we might have to do a couple of extra things before this works. So what we're going to have to do, I think, is we're going to have to modify our code slightly. So we're going to cut this bit out, and we're just going to put that on a line down here. And you'll notice I haven't got any equals sign in there. That's because the thumbnail one doesn't return an image. It just modifies the current image, this one, the image that's already in there. And now we can turn this one into a photo image. I think we'll try it anyway by putting it in there. We'll see if that works. See if it does. We might have to create a new variable here. Does it display? That did work. And you'll notice that before our picture was about the same size as the fish one, and it was not proportional, but now our picture looks pretty good, pretty much like the real picture, just much smaller. So you've got a resize method, which we used on the fish, and you've got a thumbnail method, and they can both give you the results that you're looking for. But if you don't need to use the Python imaging library, you can still resize a picture using the subsample method. So that's pretty much what we want to look at. You can add images, you can resize them, and you can show them in labels with or without text, and it doesn't take too much effort. What you should really do now is see if you can find your own images and see if you can display different images and resize them either using the Python imaging library or using, say, something like subsample to resize a few images. If you use the Python imaging library, if you do this line of code and you get these image open and image tk.photo image working, try it with a JPEG and see if you can get a JPEG to work too, or a JPG file. Oh, I think that'll do us. That was a long video. Thanks for watching. The code is in GitHub and the link's in the description. See you in the next video.